Welcome back to our channel History Coins HD. As you that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln wheat penny coin that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Coin number 1. Today we are going to talk about a small copper coin that looks simple at first glance, but hides a story so powerful that it has captured the hearts of collectors across the United States and around the world. If you love coins, history, and hidden value, then stay with me, because this is one video you will want to watch until the very end. We are diving deep into the United States of America Lincoln 1941 wheat penny, a coin that proves even everyday change can turn into a collector's dream. Imagine the year 1941. America was standing on the edge of history. The world was tense, industries were shifting, and the nation was preparing for major changes that would soon reshape everything. In the middle of this historic moment, the United States Mint was producing Lincoln wheat pennies made of solid bronze, a composition that would soon disappear during wartime. This alone gives the 1941 wheat penny a special place in American coin history. On the front of the coin, you see Abraham Lincoln, calm and dignified, a symbol of unity and strength. This portrait had already been in use for decades, but in 1941, it carried extra meaning. On the reverse, the two wheat years represent prosperity, growth, and hard work, values deeply rooted in American culture. Millions of these pennies were minted, and most of them were used in daily life, passed from hand to hand, worn down, scratched, and forgotten. But among these ordinary coins, a few extraordinary examples survived, and those are the ones collectors dream about. What makes the 1941 wheat penny truly exciting is not just its age, but its rare varieties and minting errors. Some coins were struck with doubled dies, where parts of the design appear doubled due to a misalignment during the minting process. When you see doubling on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," your heart skips a beat, because these errors instantly increase desirability. Other 1941 wheat pennies were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing while still clearly showing the date. Some were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the coin was made on metal intended for a different denomination. There are also repunched mint marks, weak strikes, and dramatic die cracks that tell the story of worn minting equipment pushed to its limits during a busy production year. Collectors also pay close attention to condition. A circulated penny that spent decades in pockets is interesting, but a mint-state example with full luster, sharp details, and rich original color is something special. Red examples with blazing copper surfaces are especially difficult to find, because copper naturally darkens over time. When a 1941 wheat penny survives with its original red color, it becomes highly desirable. This coin is fascinating because it sits at the crossroads of history and rarity. It represents the last peaceful moments before America entered the Second World War, and it belongs to the final years of bronze wheat pennies before steel cents appeared in 1943. Holding this coin is like holding a piece of American history frozen in time. For coin lovers and collectors, the thrill is in the search. You might find one in an old jar, a family collection, or even in a roll of pennies. Every 1941 wheat penny deserves a careful look, because you never know if you are holding an ordinary coin or a rare error worth serious money. This is why experienced collectors always say, never ignore a wheat penny, especially one from the early 1940s. Now let us talk about value, because this is the moment everyone waits for. In today's real market, a common circulated 1941 wheat penny is usually worth only a small premium over face value, described in words as a few cents. A high-grade uncirculated example can be worth several dollars. However, rare error varieties and top-condition coins change everything. At auction, certain 1941 wheat pennies with strong doubling, dramatic errors, or exceptional mint-state preservation have sold for amounts described in words as hundreds of dollars, and in rare cases, several $1,000s, depending on rarity, condition, and collector demand. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1941 Lincoln wheat penny, make sure you stay curious, keep searching, and never underestimate the coins you already own. History, rarity, and value can be hiding in the smallest places. Coin number 2. A coin that connects wartime history, minting mystery, and collector passion all into one small piece of copper. If you are a true coin lover, or even someone who enjoys stories hidden inside everyday objects, then listen very carefully, because the United States of America Lincoln 1942 D-Wheat penny is far more exciting than it first appears. Picture America in 1942. The country was fully involved in the Second World War. Factories were running day and night, metal supplies were under pressure, and the United States Mint was facing challenges it had never experienced before. Copper was becoming extremely important for the war effort, yet the penny was still being produced for everyday commerce. This tension between necessity and tradition created one of the most fascinating periods in coin history. The Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark below the date, struck millions of Lincoln wheat pennies in 1942. At first glance, many of these coins look ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's portrait appears strong and familiar, while the reverse wheat ears symbolize American agriculture and stability during uncertain times. But what collectors know, and what makes this coin so exciting, is that hidden among these pennies are rare varieties and mint errors that can completely change their worth. One of the biggest reasons the 1942 D-Wheat penny is so important is the transition period in metal composition. This was the final full year before drastic changes to penny metal would occur. Some experimental strikes, minting mix-ups, and unusual planchets slipped through during this chaotic wartime production. These mistakes were not intentional, but today they are exactly what collectors search for. Errors are where the magic happens. Doubled die varieties show noticeable doubling in the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." These are not signs of damage, but of a misaligned die that struck the design twice. Off-center strikes, where part of the coin design is missing but the date remains visible, are another thrilling find. There are also cracked dies, cuds, and weak strikes caused by worn equipment pushed beyond its limits during wartime. Demand condition plays a massive role in desirability. Most 1942 D pennies were heavily circulated, used to buy newspapers, groceries, and bus rides. Finding one today with sharp details, full wheat lines, and original mint luster is extremely difficult. Coins that still display bright red copper color are especially rare, because copper naturally tones over decades. These red examples are often the centerpieces of serious collections. Collectors are also fascinated by the story this coin tells. This penny was in people's pockets while soldiers were overseas, factories were booming, and history was being written every day. Owning one is not just about money, it is about holding a silent witness to one of the most important eras in American history. For coin hunters, the 1942 D-Wheat penny is a reminder to slow down and look closely. That old penny in a jar or inherited collection might carry an error, an unusual strike, or an exceptional grade that sets it apart. This is why experienced collectors always say knowledge is the most valuable tool you can own. Now, let us talk about value, because this is where curiosity turns into excitement. In today's real market, a common circulated 1942 D-Wheat penny is generally worth a small amount described in words as a few cents above face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth an amount described as several dollars. However, coins with major mint errors, strong doubled dies, or exceptional mint state quality have reached auction prices described in words as hundreds of dollars, and in rare and extraordinary cases, even several $1,000s depending on rarity, condition, and demand. Coin number 3. A penny that marked the closing years of the legendary wheat reverse and quietly became one of the most searched coins by collectors. If you love coins, hidden value, and true American history, then stay with me and listen very carefully, because the United States of America Lincoln 1950 wheat penny has a story that deserves your full attention. The year 1950 was a turning point. America was recovering from war, industries were modernizing, and everyday life was changing fast. Televisions were entering homes, highways were expanding, and the country was stepping into a new era. At the same time, the Lincoln wheat penny was nearing the end of its long journey. Within just a few years, the familiar wheat ears would disappear forever, making coins from this period especially meaningful to collectors today. When you look at the 1950 wheat penny, the design feels familiar and comforting. Abraham Lincoln's portrait reflects stability and leadership, while the wheat ears on the reverse symbolize growth and tradition. But do not let this familiar look fool you. Hidden within these pennies are varieties, conditions, and minting errors that can dramatically change their importance and desirability. What makes the 1950 wheat penny interesting is its place in history. It belongs to the final era of wheat cents, a time when minting technology was improving but still imperfect. This created opportunities for errors that modern machines rarely allow. Doubled die coins are among the most exciting finds. Doubling can appear in the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." These are not damage or wear, but true mint errors that collectors actively hunt for. Other errors add even more excitement. Off-center strikes show part of the design missing while the date remains visible. Die cracks and cuds appear as raised lines or blobs of metal, caused by aging dies that were pushed hard to meet production demands. Some coins show weak strikes where details appear soft, while others show surprisingly sharp features that stand out among ordinary examples. Condition is everything with the 1950 wheat penny. Most were heavily circulated, spending years in pockets, cash registers, and jars. Finding one with strong wheat lines, sharp lettering, and original mint luster is not easy. Coins that still show bright red copper color are especially rare and highly desired, because copper naturally darkens over time. These red examples often become highlights in advanced collections. Collectors are drawn to this coin not just for rarity, but for emotion. This penny represents the end of an era. It was one of the last wheat pennies people used every day, before the design changed forever. Holding it feels like holding the final page of a long and beautiful story in American coinage. For coin lovers, this is a reminder to never ignore old pennies. That simple 1950 wheat cent sitting in a drawer could have a hidden error, an exceptional grade, or eye appeal that sets it apart. Careful inspection, patience, and knowledge are what turn ordinary finds into exciting discoveries. Now let us talk about value, because this is what many viewers wait for. In today's real market, a common circulated 1950 wheat penny is usually worth an amount described in words as only a few cents above face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth an amount described as several dollars. Coins with strong doubled dies, dramatic errors, or outstanding mint state condition have achieved auction results described in words as hundreds of dollars, and in rare top-grade cases, even over $1,000, depending on rarity, condition, and collector demand. Coin number 4. We are talking about a penny that marks the dramatic ending of a legendary chapter in American coin history. A small copper coin that many people once ignored, spent, or saved without realizing that it would later become one of the most famous and talked about wheat pennies ever made. If you are a true coin lover, collector, or someone who enjoys discovering hidden treasures, then listen very carefully and stay with me until the end, because the United States of America Lincoln 1958 wheat penny is not just a coin, it is a historic farewell. The year 1958 was special. It was the final year the Lincoln wheat penny was struck for circulation. After nearly half a century, the familiar wheat ears on the reverse were about to disappear forever. This alone makes every 1958 wheat penny historically important, but what truly elevates this coin into legendary status is the presence of one of the most dramatic and valuable mint errors ever discovered on a United States cent. At first glance, the 1958 wheat penny looks simple and familiar. Abraham Lincoln's portrait stands proudly on the front, representing leadership, unity, and tradition. On the reverse, the two wheat ears symbolize prosperity and hard work, a design Americans had seen in their daily lives for decades. But hidden within some of these final wheat cents are shocking details that can completely transform a common penny into a collector's dream. The most famous rarity associated with this coin is the double die error. This is not a small or subtle mistake. On genuine double die examples, the date, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust" appear dramatically doubled, so clear that it can often be seen without magnification. This happened when the die received a misaligned impression during creation, causing the design to be doubled on every coin struck from it. Because this occurred in the final year of wheat cent production, the error instantly became historic. Beyond the famous doubled die, collectors also look for other minting errors that add character and value. Off-center strikes show part of the design missing while the date remains visible. Die cracks and die breaks appear as raised lines or blobs of metal, telling the story of worn dies pushed to their limits at the end of an era. Weak strikes and unusual surface textures also attract attention, especially when combined with strong eye appeal. Condition plays a massive role in desirability. Most 1958 wheat pennies were heavily circulated, used in everyday transactions during a time of rapid change in America. Finding one today with sharp details, full wheat lines, and original mint luster is difficult. Coins that still display bright red copper color are especially rare and highly prized, because copper naturally darkens over time. These red examples feel almost frozen in time, as if they were never meant to be spent. What makes this coin so emotional for collectors is what it represents. This penny was the last of its kind. It was the final wheat cent people carried in their pockets, dropped into jars, and saved in albums. After 1958, the reverse design changed forever. Owning one feels like holding the closing note of a long and beautiful song in American numismatics. For coin hunters, this penny is a reminder to always look closely. That old wheat penny you inherited or found in a collection might be ordinary, or it might be something extraordinary. Knowledge, patience, and careful inspection are what separate casual holders from serious collectors. Now let us talk about value. In today's real market, a common circulated 1958 wheat penny is generally worth an amount described in words as a few cents above face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth an amount described as several dollars. However, rare error varieties, especially the famous doubled die examples in strong condition, have achieved auction prices described in words as tens of thousands of dollars, making this final wheat penny one of the most valuable and iconic Lincoln cents ever created. Coin number 5. If you are a coin lover, a collector, or someone who dreams of finding treasure in the smallest places, then listen very carefully and stay with me, because the United States of America Lincoln 1944 wheat penny is far more than just an old coin. The year 1944 was a powerful moment in time. America was deep into the Second World War. Factories were working non-stop, soldiers were overseas, and every material had a purpose. Just 1 year earlier, pennies had been made from steel to save copper for the war. In 1944, copper returned, but not in the way many people expect. The metal used for these pennies came largely from recycled wartime materials, including melted shell casings. That means every genuine 1944 wheat penny carries a direct physical connection to American history and sacrifice. At first glance, the coin looks familiar. Abraham Lincoln's portrait stands strong on the front, symbolizing leadership during crisis. On the reverse, the wheat years represent resilience, growth, and hope, values that meant everything during wartime. Millions of these pennies were produced and circulated heavily, but hidden among them are rare varieties and shocking mint errors that have made this coin legendary. The most famous and exciting rarity connected to the 1944 wheat penny is the accidental steel version. These coins were mistakenly struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943. They were never supposed to exist. Only a tiny number escaped the mint, and today they are among the most desired Lincoln cents in the world. A simple magnet test can separate an ordinary copper penny from a steel rarity, making this one of the most thrilling discoveries a collector can make. Beyond the steel error, there are other valuable mistakes collectors look for. Doubled die varieties show visible doubling on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." These are true mint errors created during die preparation, not damage from circulation. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and coins struck on the wrong metal also add excitement and value. Die cracks and cuds appear as raised lines or blobs of metal, telling the story of worn dies pushed hard during wartime production. Condition plays a major role in desirability. Most 1944 wheat pennies were heavily used, spending decades in circulation. Finding one today with sharp details, full wheat lines, and original mint luster is difficult. Coins that still show bright red copper color are especially rare, because copper naturally darkens with age. These red examples stand out instantly and are highly prized by advanced collectors. What truly makes this coin special is its story. This penny was in the pockets of Americans while history was being written. It was used during rationing, victory gardens, and wartime factories. Holding it is like holding a small but powerful piece of the past. That emotional connection is why collectors never stop searching for better examples, rarer errors, and higher grades. For coin hunters, the 1944 wheat penny is a reminder to always look closely. That old penny in a jar, album, or inherited collection might be ordinary, or it might be something extraordinary. Knowledge turns curiosity into opportunity, and patience often leads to incredible discoveries. Now let us talk about value. In today's real market, a common circulated 1944 wheat penny is generally worth an amount described in words as a few cents above face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth an amount described as several dollars. Rare error coins, especially genuine 1944 steel pennies or strong double die varieties, have achieved auction prices described in words as tens of thousands of dollars, and in exceptional cases, even higher, depending on authenticity, condition, and collector demand. Coin number 6. A coin that does not shout its importance at first glance, yet carries powerful meaning for collectors who truly understand American coin history. If you love wheat pennies, hidden varieties, and the thrill of discovering value where others see only spare change, then listen very carefully and stay with me, because the United States of America Lincoln 1946 wheat penny has a story worth your time. The year 1946 marked a new beginning for the United States. The Second World War had ended, soldiers were returning home, industries were shifting from wartime production back to civilian life, and the nation was slowly healing. In this calm after the storm, the United States Mint continued producing Lincoln wheat pennies, once again using copper-based metal. These coins were no longer made under emergency wartime conditions, but they were still struck with equipment that had seen years of heavy use. That combination created a unique window for varieties and errors that collectors pay close attention to today. When you look at a 1946 wheat penny, you see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, steady and timeless. On the reverse, the wheat ears remain, symbols of growth, stability, and hope. By this point, Americans had seen this design for decades, but that familiarity is exactly what makes rare examples so exciting. Most people never thought to save them, which makes high-quality survivors far more difficult to find. Now, one of the most important factors that makes this coin interesting is condition. The majority of 1946 wheat pennies were heavily circulated during the post-war years. They bought bread, newspapers, and everyday necessities. Finding one today with sharp details, strong wheat lines, and original mint luster is not easy. Coins that still show bright red copper color are especially rare, because copper naturally tones and darkens over time. These red examples instantly stand out and are highly desirable among collectors. Minting errors are where excitement truly begins. Double die varieties can show visible doubling on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." These are true mint errors created during die preparation, not damage from circulation. There are also repunched mint marks on some examples, where the mint mark was stamped more than once, creating a shadowed or doubled appearance that collectors love to find. Other errors include off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing but the date is still visible, clipped planchets caused by mistakes in metal cutting, and die cracks that appear as raised lines across the coin. These cracks tell a story of dies that were worn and stressed after years of non-stop wartime use. Each error adds personality and uniqueness, turning an ordinary penny into something memorable. What makes the 1946 wheat penny especially appealing is its place in history. It represents peace after conflict, normal life returning, and the continuation of a design that would soon disappear forever. Only a little more than a decade later, the wheat reverse would be replaced, making coins from this period feel like part of a closing chapter. For collectors and coin lovers, this penny is a reminder that rarity is not always obvious. Sometimes it is hidden in condition, in small details, or in subtle errors that require patience and knowledge to recognize. That is why experienced collectors always say to look closely at every wheat penny, especially those from the 1940s. Now let us talk about value. In today's real market, a common circulated 1946 wheat penny is usually worth an amount described in words as a few cents above face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth an amount described as several dollars. Coins with strong double dies, repunched mint marks, or exceptional mint state condition have achieved auction prices described in words as hundreds of dollars, and in rare top quality cases, even over $1,000, depending on rarity, condition, and collector demand. Coin number 7. A coin many people have seen but very few truly understand. If you love Lincoln wheat pennies, wartime stories, and the excitement of hidden value, then listen very carefully and stay with me, because the United States of America Lincoln 1940s wheat penny is far more than just an old copper coin. The year 1940 was a moment of tension and anticipation. The world was already at war, and although the United States had not yet entered the conflict, the pressure could be felt everywhere. The San Francisco Mint, marked by the small s below the date, produced Lincoln wheat pennies during this uncertain time. These coins were made just before America would be pulled fully into global conflict, giving them a unique historical identity that collectors deeply appreciate today. At first glance, the 1940s wheat penny looks familiar. Abraham Lincoln's portrait appears calm and steady, while the reverse wheat ears symbolize prosperity and strength. But behind this familiar design lies a coin that is surprisingly challenging to find in high quality. Many of these pennies were heavily circulated on the West Coast, used daily in commerce, and rarely saved in pristine condition. What truly sets the 1940s wheat penny apart is condition rarity. Compared to pennies from the Philadelphia or Denver mints, high-grade examples from San Francisco are much harder to locate. The mint often produced coins with weaker strikes, meaning details such as Lincoln's hair, cheek, and the wheat lines on the reverse can appear soft. Finding a sharply struck example with full detail is a major achievement for collectors. Minting errors also add excitement and value. Double die varieties may show doubling on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." These errors were created during die preparation and are highly sought after. There are also repunched mint marks, where the S mint mark appears doubled or shadowed due to multiple impressions. Die cracks and cuds appear as raised lines or blobs of metal, revealing the stress placed on minting equipment during this busy period. Off-center strikes and clipped planchets are also found, though in small numbers. These dramatic errors instantly catch the eye and make each coin unique. Because the 1940s penny was not widely recognized as special at the time, many error coins circulated freely and survived only by chance. Collectors are drawn to this coin not only for its rarity, but for what it represents. It is a coin from the calm before the storm, the last moments before America entered the Second World War. Holding one feels like holding a piece of history just before everything changed. That emotional connection makes this penny especially meaningful in a collection. For coin lovers, the 1940s wheat penny is a reminder to slow down and look closely. That old penny in a jar or album might be worn, but it could also have a rare mint mark, a valuable error, or a condition that sets it apart. Knowledge is what transforms ordinary coins into exciting discoveries. Now let us talk about value. In today's real market, a common circulated 1940s wheat penny is generally worth an amount described in words as several cents above face value. A well-preserved uncirculated example can be worth an amount described as several dollars to tens of dollars. Coins with strong double dies, repunched mint marks, or exceptional mint state condition have achieved auction prices described in words as hundreds of dollars, and in rare top-grade cases, even over $1,000, depending on rarity, condition, and collector demand.